We are back with another Johnnie Torch Live broadcast. Broadcast number 183 of Torch News Roundup number 161. Welcome in, everyone, and a very happy Thanksgiving weekend to you all. I hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Had a lot of turkey and all the fixins. I just personally had my leftovers right now with raviolis and lasagna. Nothing like an Italian Thanksgiving dinner with leftovers. So yeah, we got the Happy Thanksgiving grid still up here. Just take another second here to just impart my thanks to all my viewers, all my subscribers, all my followers on Twitter. If you do in fact deign to follow me and subscribe to the channel, it's much appreciated. I'm very thankful to you, as well as thankful for all my blessings. As I said at the close of last week's broadcast, so much to be thankful for. I thank Jesus every day for all the wonderful blessings I have, and Thanksgiving is a more than appropriate time to just set aside and really focus on those things that we take for granted every day, but we should really be counting our blessings. And, you know, Thanksgiving weekend, I always feel the most chill. I really feel at peace and just a wonderful sense of gratitude to the Lord and all the great things that He's done for me. I am very grateful for. Okay, so if you are inclined, if you are so inclined, please hit that like button, share the video when you can, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I notice a couple of subs have fallen off the wagon, which is kind of unusual and unfortunate, but such is life, I suppose. You're going to lose a few followers. I think every time YouTube goes in and makes a scan of dead accounts or something like that, they'll end up taking a few and having them fall away. But again, I hope you've enjoyed your happy Thanksgiving weekend. And we are going to carry on with the news of the week. Please sit back and enjoy your leftovers, your desserts. Oh, I love the desserts. That's my favorite part. And we'll talk for about an hour here. I wasn't sure, because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, just like last week. It's kind of a slow news period for, you know, comic-related stuff. And if this is the first time you've watched the show, this is what we talk about. You know, pop culture, comic book related movies and TV. We talk about Star Trek and Star Wars. We got some Star Trek news tonight that I really should have got to last week when I had no news to cover, but it's good. Gave me something else to talk about today. I also have plans for the, I finally saw Star Trek, excuse me. I was going to say Into Darkness, but Into the Spider-Verse. And I didn't know if I was just going to give a brief review here at the beginning of this show, or if I was just going to, you know, do a full review. I don't have a lot to talk about it, though, but I think I'll do it as a separate review, so you can probably keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll record it tonight and just put it out in a couple of days to give, you know, to give a little space so that there'll be some views given to this video. All right, before we get into the news, though, as usual, we want to direct your attention to The Adventures of Bullett's Bourbon Private Eye. This is my magnum opus, the great comic book series that I've created with a down-on-his-luck private eye taking on the most colorful collection of villains imaginable, including Carrot Top, Pickle Puss, Pencil Neck, and Sour Note. Not all of which are pictured here, but this is the image of the latest graphic novel we have, When the Night Comes, which I feel is some of my best work. They're all great, but this is one that I really pride myself on, that I felt that I got this story so right. Bullett's faces down his two most dangerous rivals, Pencil Neck and Carrot Top, with a stake of the world at stake, with the fate of the world at stake. And of course we introduced Desiree Miller, Bullett's intended, and his rival, Private Eye, Detective Scotch. You can check it out in the link in the description below. I have some good news as well, that the second remaster, this of course is the remaster graphic novel, The second remaster, knock on wood, is now at the printer, and it is supposedly at least en route to me for me to get the first copy to check it out, make sure everything is okay. So it won't be long now before you will have both remastered editions. You know, the When the Night Comes graphic novel encompasses issues 4, 5, and 6, and the Knock on Wood graphic novel encompasses issues 2 and 3. I am still hard at work on remastering issue number 1, which is a chore in and of itself. But check out The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye. It is the most fun time you'll have with comics. That's exactly what I want to do with comics. I want to make them fun again. I want to make them great again. We've got women that actually look like women. We have dastardly villains that just love to be evil. And we have a white knight protagonist that is a great role model for the kiddies. So if any of that appeals to you, and it's true, I get a lot of younger readers, particularly, that are interested in The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye, and I would say, you know, I would tell all parents to check out what their children are reading, but I would say it's very appropriate for all ages. I mean, we don't write down to the level of kids, but it is pretty much the level of a, MCU movie or something. There really isn't anything that I would consider, problematic for a younger reader. And that's the idea, to try to get the next generation into comics again, making them fun. And for those of us who've been around for quite a while, this is a return to form. This is a return to when comics were fun and they were allowed to look nice and have engaging stories. So check out The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye. The link is in the description below. And also, check out my Twitter page. You'll find that link as well in the description below. And without any further ado, let us continue on with the show. This week's show, the last day of November. Can you believe that already? Christmas shopping. I got to do some Christmas shopping. I'm doing some preliminary work looking at Amazon this afternoon, but I haven't done any shopping yet per se. Let's see, our first story. How's about this? Oh, that's scary. But I found this story very interesting because as a huge Incredible Hulk fan, I was sorely disappointed that they pretty much dropped all storylines from that Incredible Hulk movie. That was actually a great movie. And it was a great depiction of the Incredible Hulk, something that unfortunately slowly went downhill as time went on. I think Avengers was a good depiction of the Hulk. I also say it's probably contrary to popular opinion. I think the Hulk's depiction in Ragnarok was pretty good as well. I think that was a better Hulk movie than it was a Thor movie, but it was a pretty good movie. I liked Ragnarok. It wasn't great, but it was good. But apart from that, the Hulk hasn't been treated well in the MCU. I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Ruffalo's portrayal. I think he did a good job in Avengers. I don't know how Edward Norton would have handled it, going forward in the MCU, but I think the Hulk's best days was in the Incredible Hulk if we're going to talk about the MCU. Well, Tim Blake Nelson, who is currently in HBO's Watchmen, played the leader, a.k.a. Samuel Stearns, in 2008's The Incredible Hulk. The character has been MIA ever since, but the actor has revealed that he was meant to appear in at least 3 films. Oh, this breaks my heart. This breaks my heart to read this, because I really wanted to see the Hulk get his due in the MCU, and he just hasn't. They have mistreated this character. The only one they've mistreated worse is possibly Spider-Man. But, yeah, the Hulk should have been a major force in the MCU. And he shouldn't have been in the Avengers movies. The Hulk is not an Avenger. You know what I mean? They tried that in one movie and it worked out because he was the wild card. But he should not have kept reappearing. He should have went back to his own corner of the MCU. And, you know, you could have some cross-pollination. Like I said, I always wanted to see a Hulk Spider-Man team up. Maybe, you know, Hulk, Captain America. Something that they could have had, you know, both of them in. They had Hulk and Thor, which I thought worked very well. There's the drag racing. But let's read the copy. Yeah, so Tim Blake Nelson said, I got called down to the lobby of the Mercer Hotel to meet Louis Latour and Gail Ann Hurd, who's producer. They said, we want you to play this science character, and I'd read the script. He was wildly eccentric, mainly in the second half of the movie. I thought that was interesting because I hadn't been in one of these movies before, and they said, well, you're going to become the villain in the next movie, so you'll basically be signing up for 3 movies, and you're going to be this character called the Leader. And I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. Unfortunately, none of that ended up coming to pass in the MCU. So, yeah, it's pretty much laid all out there that they originally had big plans for the Leader, that he was going to be in a trilogy of Hulk films. You know how painful that is for a Hulk fan to hear this, that he was actually going to be getting a trilogy of films, The Incredible Hulk. And instead, what we got was him being just like a bit player, being the comic relief. Oh, man, that is so painful. The story comes from GQ. But yeah, what would you have thought about a Hulk trilogy? What would you have wanted to see in a Hulk trilogy? Would you like to see the Leader be the main villain in those 3 movies? Of course, you got to remember, this is... The Incredible Hulk came out post... or I should say pre-Disney acquisition. So they were going by basically just committee, the Kevin Feige and committee. And the idea there was like to lead up to a Avengers movie, but they didn't, you know, set the scene for a trilogy too much in the other characters. For instance, I'm saying Iron Man... They originally kind of set it up that there would be a Mandarin, and that would be the entire trilogy. And then instead they broke it off into a completely different sequel. And then the third film, they kind of returned to the idea of the Mandarin and ruined it. Same thing with Captain America. They didn't go back to the Red Skull, which is what you would think they would have originally done. They ended up pulling the strings and stretching things somewhat. So I'm starting to think that maybe had... plans continued on as they were originally intended, we probably wouldn't have gotten 3 movies of the Hulk with the Leader. I think they probably would have wrapped up the Leader story in the second movie, and maybe if they did make a third Hulk movie, it would probably be wildly different and just have something that would connect to a future, you know, maybe Avengers movie, or maybe just a lead up for another character's movie. That's kind of the way they did it, and I think that's probably what they would have done here. But yeah, again, a sad turn of events. We never got a Hulk trilogy, and it looks like we're probably not going to get one anytime soon. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you have liked to see a Hulk trilogy with the Leader prospectively being the main antagonist for the whole series? I imagine Abomination would have come back. I would have loved to see the Rhino take on the Hulk. He's my second favorite Hulk villain, and he's not technically a Hulk villain. He's supposed to be a Spider-Man villain, which, even though he started in the pages of Spider-Man, I think he has more history with the Hulk, being able to give him a fight toe-to-toe. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever see that, really. You know, but we do have Spidey still in the MCU, so it could happen. Alright, next up we've got a little bit here about the Wanda Vision TV series that is in production for Disney+. Now, let's see. Charles Murphy claims that Nightmare has already been cast and will be the true villain of WandaVision on Disney+. That That makes sense considering the fact that most of the series will reportedly take place in a dreamlike reality akin to a sitcom. This would also explain why Scarlet Witch appears in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, as that bad guy has been rumored for that movie for quite some time now. Needless to say, this definitely falls into the rumor category for now, but with Catherine Hahn cast as a mysterious nosy neighbor, it's entirely possible that's who she is. So they're going to gender change Nightmare, I guess. Is that what it is? I don't know. I don't remember that character too much, so I couldn't tell you really. But who's this Charles Murphy? I don't know. I don't know. Where did he get this scoop? Who is he and where did he get this scoop? Alright, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is that a good sign? We get Nightmare coming into WandaVision, and that's going to get the stage set for Doctor Strange 2, which is a movie I'm very excited about, to be totally honest with you. I think that's the one I'm most looking forward to. Let's see. Whoops. It's taking a while for me to get this. There we go. Alright. The next story we got here comes from Charles Murphy again. Hey, this Charles Murphy guy gets around. I don't know who he is, but hey, he's becoming a force in the scoop trade. Yep. That's that apple cider vinegar water. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Charles Murphy, who had a pretty good track record with Marvel scoops when he wrote for MCU Exchange, says, the plan is for Black Panther 2 to introduce Doctor Doom as the main villain. Murphy cautions that this is not a hot scoop just yet, but it is something he has heard from a reliable source. Apparently, Victor Von Doom will begin expanding his empire, conquering parts of Africa, and ultimately come into conflict with the nation of Wakanda and the Black Panther. How likely is this? Well, we know director Ryan Coogler has only recently begun to outline the script for the sequel, but that doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't already locked down the main story, so there's always a chance details have leaked out. Plus, Doom and T'Challa have faced off several times in the comics, most notably 2010's Doom War, so there is some precedent for a clash on the big screen. So, yeah, I don't know. Part of me says I don't want Doctor Doom to be the main villain in Black Panther 2, because you definitely need him to be the main driving force in a Fantastic Four movie. I really think you need to do Doctor Doom in the first Fantastic Four movie, and then you move on to stuff like Galactus, Silver Surfer, and so forth. So if Doctor Doom is introduced in Black Panther 2, that's a good thing. I think that would be exciting to sort of set the stage by showing us Victor Von Doom. But, like, that would necessitate that the Black Panther can't defeat Doctor Doom. I guess there's a way you could write that where it would look good, but, I mean, you know, you have the main protagonist kind of failing in the movie, you know what I mean? I don't know. You don't want Black Panther to come off looking bad, you know what I mean? He should be victorious in his own movie, but then again, of course, you can't have Doctor Doom lose before he's even met the Fantastic Four. I mean, I suppose he could lose a battle, you know what I mean? But you know, it's kind of an off-putting thing, unless of course they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four in Black Panther, which would be appropriate because, you know, Black Panther was introduced in Fantastic Four comics. So if we get the intro to the Fantastic Four in Black Panther, you know, that might be a little more fitting, and it might sort of set the stage for a Fantastic Four movie where Doctor Doom would be the lead villain. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to speculate on. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you like to see Doctor Doom be the main villain for Black Panther? Do you think, like I said, that might be kind of anticlimactic because we know Doom has to survive to face Fantastic Four? And, you know, probably moreover, he's got to be a Thanos tier villain. You know what I mean? I think they want to do that with Galactus and Kang. But Doom also deserves to be up there as sort of a, you know, he's an Avengers-style villain where you could probably pit, you know, a huge group of villains, I mean, a huge group of heroes against one villain. That would kind of work out well in the case of using Doom, I think. Alright, so let me know what you think in the comments below. And we go from Black Panther to Black Widow. Yes, Black Widow. Supposedly a trailer is going to be coming out soon for the Black Widow major motion picture. And until then, I don't know when it's coming out, but until then, we get the story from Vanity Fair. Scarlett Johansson shedding some light on what to expect from the spin-off. The actress explained why we're not getting a full-blown prequel starring the character. I did not want it to be an origin story, she stated. I did not want it to be an espionage story. I didn't want it to feel superficial at all. I only wanted to do it if it actually fit where I was with the character. I had spent such a long time peeling those layers away, I felt that unless we got to something deep, then there was no reason to make it. Because I did my job in Endgame and actually felt satisfied with that, I would have been happy to let that be it. So there had to be a reason to do it other than just to milk something. Johansson added that the film talks a lot of tough stuff. It deals with a lot of trauma and pain. She went on to talk about her hopes that the movie will deal with self-doubt and insecurity and shame, and disappointment and regret, and all that stuff too. It has many different things. It's not just that, but there's a lot of deep stuff, I think, that drives it. So, there you have it. I don't know. I kind of would have preferred to see, maybe if not an origin story. I mean, I think I would have liked to see the origin story, you know, the whole Budapest thing and everything with Hawkeye. But I think maybe at this point that time has passed where we really need that. That would have been cool to see maybe in Phase 2. Now that we're on Phase 4, I don't know if we need to go back to that, but I do feel disappointed that it's not an espionage story. If apparently she's not going to be undercover or doing some clandestine mission for the S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, I don't know. It kind of feels like, just what is it going to be about then? It's just going to be her kind of, I don't know, taking a new Black Widow under her wing. It's kind of like, you know, that's the story of Phase 4, I think. It's just going to be all the phasing out of the main heroes. And it was sort of, and I can kind of see what she's saying with this, that it's kind of feeling like she's contractually obligated now to give us a Black Widow movie. And I guess she wants to make it as unique as it possibly could be, because if this is just the Black Widow movie that we should have gotten in, you know, 2011 or something, you know, it's gonna be an anticlimactic event. It has to be something a little more relevant, but again, it can't help but feel less than relevant when you have the hero dead. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a look back. This is not a look forward or a, you know, progression of the character, and that's pretty sad. I think they squandered their chance with Black Widow to make her an important force going forward. Now, I don't know, maybe Scarlett Johansson didn't want to continue on with the character. I'm not sure. But I still feel killing her off was a big mistake. That's what I'll say. I'll say that. All right, let me know what you think about Black Widow and the Black Widow motion picture. And do you think Scarlett Johansson is on the right track here with this, her opinion about what the Black Widow movie should be about? Alright, so next we're going to talk about disappointment. We're going to talk about Suicide Squad 2. Now, Suicide Squad 2, by all accounts, they are saying now that it is probably going to be rated R. So cue my long-winded rant about R-rated comic book movies. Let me read the copy first. Suicide Squad is being touted as a non-sequel sequel to 2016 Suicide Squad. One way the James Gunn-directed reimagining may be different from its predecessor is that it will carry an R rating. According to a report from Variety, Warner Bros. Pictures has become more comfortable with the idea of superhero movies aimed at adults. Insiders say that the Suicide Squad is expected to have an R rating, as will Suicide Squad spin-off Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Some expected the first Suicide Squad movie to receive an R rating, but the film landed with a PG-13 instead. Director David Ayer said that he'd like to make an R-rated sequel. His idea may come to fruition even if he isn't the one at the helm. Suicide Squad cast includes Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, returning from the first film, along with newcomers including Peter Capaldi, Idris Elba, Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, Sean Gunn, David Del Masterson, Storm Reed, Pete Davidson, Taika Waititi, and John Cena. Hey, John Cena! Alright, so, yeah, let me launch into this briefly, because I know you guys, if you've watched my show for any length of time, you know what I'm going to say, you know my complaints. This is what you wanted, right? This is what you wanted. You wanted to change the face of superhero film with Logan, with Deadpool, now you got Joker. Now you've tainted the pool and there's no turning back. Now we're going to get 2 Harley Quinn movies that little girls can't see. This is the people that want to give us, you know, role models for young women and this and that. And now the kids can't see these movies. That to me is, it's anathema. It's terrible. You don't grow the genre by excluding the kids. And the comics were originally for the kids. Now, what happened was the people that took over from the old guard, let's say the late 60s, early 70s, and I'm sure I'm repeating myself if you've heard this story before, but originally, you know, the first vanguard of comics, they did it as a job. They did it and they took pride in what they were doing, but they did it as a job and they figured this is for a group of kids, 10 years old. Within 5 years, it'll turn over, and we'll get a new group of kids between the ages of, whatever, 7 and 10 years old. And that's the way it went. But then, when the old guard finally went into retirement, we got the second generation, which grew up with comics, which wanted the comics to grow up with them, which wanted to adapt the comics so that they would be more mature. Now, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's the start of the Bronze Age, which is actually my favorite age of the comics. You know, starting with the death of Gwen Stacy, and stakes were high, things mattered. It wasn't just Silver Age fluff that was meant to, you know, just make the kids spend an afternoon with a comic and then forget about it. It was meant to have lasting significance. So I don't really blame that generation. But every successive generation has tried to build on that by making the comics more and more exclusionary, is that the way I'm saying? Exclusionary to the younger generation. This all started with the death of the Bronze Age, which was the late 80s when you had the Dark Knight Returns and the Killing Joke and Watchmen, and these things were not geared to children whatsoever. They were not, you know, they were not really appropriate, let's say. So when you get to that point and you're excluding the audience, it gets very difficult to continue on with having successive generations interested when they can't get into it until they're a certain age. And when they're a certain age, it's like the concepts are different than what they were exposed to originally. It's tough to explain, but for instance, a kid that grows up with the Batman the Animated Series, for example, they're used to the Joker being a certain way. He's funny. He actually is humorous. He has a dangerous persona, but it's not, something that's grotesque. Then you jump forward and you get a little older and you start seeing things like Joker, the movie, or, some of the other more, vulgar treatments of the Joker, and you see that it's not the character that you were introduced to. So one way or the other, it's not setting the stage for the character to be consistent. The characters are like being sold to kids, at least they were in the past, as being something palatable for all ages. And now we're trying to spin this off where the new material that's coming out is all stuff that kids can't see. And it's just not right. I personally don't believe it's right. Suicide Squad, well, with James Gunn at the helm, I'm pretty sure it would obviously be rated R. He kind of gets away with some stuff in the Guardians films that I probably would have held him back on, were I the producer. Mostly Guardians 2. I think Guardians 1 was pretty even-handed. But, again, this is what it is. It's like, how do you introduce this stuff to your kids when you're telling your kids, look, you can't see the Joker, he's blowing people's brains out. You can't see Suicide Squad because there's probably going to be a lot of raunchy humor and stuff. It's just, I think it signals the death knell of the golden age of the comic book movies. It's, you know, society has made things a lot more permissible, and there's a lot of kids that there's a lot of things I probably wouldn't want to show my kids that are even in a PG-13 rated film these days. But I don't know, I think this is what people wanted. They wanted us to close the door on the previous generation. They wanted us to cater to them. It's all about you, isn't it? We want to have the, you know, the character study and the deep analysis, and we want the grotty humor or the vulgarity and stuff like that. That's what we want. We couldn't make Deadpool something that was, you know, risque for a PG-13, but still something palatable for kids. No, we had to go straight rated R. Same thing with, like, Wolverine. We had to up the violence, and we had to make sure that kids couldn't see it, even though, you know, the comics were created for the kids, and you know, X-Men's a big thing for young kids. We can't show them. So, again, this disappoints me, and it's disappointing on another level, because now you're going to have the DCEU getting the wrong message from the R-rated movies doing well, and they're going to keep spinning off into more and more R-rated movies, which means you can expect Batman, you can expect, you know, I don't really know too much what else is on their plate. I mean, I imagine, obviously, Shazam and Wonder Woman and Aquaman probably won't be R-rated, but with Batman having an upcoming slate of movies, and we have the spin-offs here of Harley Quinn, which 2 movies in a row now, Harley Quinn is going to be rated R. I don't know. I just don't know what you say to kids that are into the comics and interested in seeing these films. Now, I think there's every possibility, and this is what I'm hoping is going to happen. It's kind of sad when I have to hope that a film fails, but I'm pretty sure Birds of Prey, the anticipation of the fabulous Harley Quinn, I'm pretty sure it's going to fail at the box office. I'm pretty sure that's not going to do well. Once we've seen so far, you know, if history has taught us anything, it's that you can kill anybody. You can kill any franchise, basically, right? In the words of Michael Corleone, you can kill anybody. You can kill any franchise with wokeness. This year alone, we saw the death of the Charlie's Angels reboot, Terminator. It's happened to Ghostbusters. When they go woke and the heavy-handedness, I'm pretty sure that's the same tone we're going to get in the Birds of Prey. The rah-rah girl power, the, you know, the wokeness, all the men are fools, and stuff like that. I think that's probably going to mitigate against them, and Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn film is probably going to fail financially at the box office. I don't know if it'll be a resounding failure, but it'll probably fail enough that they will probably rethink the concept of the rated R film should that film fail. Because they probably will figure that, you know, the rated R comedy is a tougher sell. I think the rated R drama might be an easier sell. But the rated R comedy is kind of a tough sell. So I think that if Birds of Prey fails at the box office, and definitely if Suicide Squad 2 fails at the box office, you probably won't be seeing any more rated R Harley Quinn films. I think probably Birds of Prey will be enough to have them walk back the rated R on Suicide Squad 2. Because, you know, they're very reactionary, particularly at Warner's. They're not going to take too many steps in the wrong direction if the grid is showing that financially it's not successful. So that is my analysis of that. And let's get to our... Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know a lot of people relish their rated R movies and comic book movies, and you know, let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I way off base with this? No, I don't think I am. I don't think you can convince me otherwise, but I'm pretty sure that this will signal the beginning of the end for the comic book golden age in cinema. Alright, next up we've got our story of the night here, the return to the big screen of Captain James T. Kirk, commander of the Starship Enterprise, Dr. McCoy, and Mr. Spock. Dr. McCoy, I couldn't get him in the picture here. He's supposed to be on the right, but anyway, it looks like we have a Star Trek IV in dry dock. It looks like Star Trek IV is in the works. Now, this film was originally to star Chris Hemsworth of Thor fame returning to the captain's chair with a time travel story that was going to bring Chris Hemsworth's Captain George Kirk back to... Was that his name, George? Yeah, I think it was, right? Or was that his brother's name, Captain Kirk? I know it was his brother's name, but was his brother's name the same as his father? I think it was. Isn't it funny, though, in the movie they called him Johnnie? I don't understand why. Anyway, so, yeah, then the deal fell apart for some reason because they couldn't afford to pay Pine and Hemsworth, the two Chris's, the same money that they had promised them in the earlier contract. So both Pine and Hemsworth walked away from the project saying, no dice, no deal, no captain's chair, so long as I don't get paid, which you promised me. Which, you know, at the time I was disappointed in them for doing this. I kind of understand how when you're promised something, you know, they were already locked in on these contracts, and then to sort of say afterwards, well, you know, we're going to go back on the offer. That's kind of stupid to do that to somebody. But you know, the Star Trek movies originally, as I said before, in the William Shatner era, they were made on a shoestring budget practically. I mean, they were not poorly made by any means, but they would basically take a set and redress it. I mean, Kirk's Enterprise bridge would be the same as Khan's Reliant bridge with just a few minor alterations. They had the Bird of Prey set that they used for like 3 movies. I mean, it wasn't too difficult for them to make these movies on the cheap somewhat, you know what I mean? So it wasn't that difficult. Let's take a look at the copy here. After a 3-year silence, there has been news on the 4th film in the rebooted Star Trek film series. Noah Hawley, best known for creating FX Legion and Fargo TV series, is in final talks to write and direct it, according to reports from The Wrap and Deadline. So yeah, Noah Hawley, remember him? He was going to make the Doctor Doom movie, and apparently that kind of went by the wayside, I think. And yeah, he did Legion, which I thought was very good. Kind of weird and trippy for my taste, a little out there, but yeah, it was pretty good. Apparently he's going to be in the director's seat for this one. The most recent Star Trek film was 2016's Star Trek Beyond, which I thought was pretty good, mind you. I think it didn't do as well financially as the previous 2 films, but, you know, it felt like a good episode of the television show, you know what I mean? I don't know if it felt as cinematic as maybe Into Darkness did. A lot of people don't like Into Darkness. I thought it was pretty good. The problem is, I think Star Trek Beyond was good because it returned more... Oh, yeah, piece of hair in my mouth. It returned more to the formula of classic Trek. It didn't go into the whole thing of, oh, Spock and Uhura's got a romance, and they got an on-bridge romance, and we got to make sure we have time to focus on that. And we got Kirk talking about his father for the 75th time. I mean, this is like stuff they brought into the franchise that was not in the original concept, the original iteration of classic Trek. So, I mean, they scaled back on that a little bit, and I think they probably should continue in that vein. I don't know if they will, but definitely scale that back. I mean, I feel, it's kind of hard to kind of make it fresh and original without, doing stuff like that. But, giving Spock a romance of all people. I mean, if they were going to make Uhura and Sulu a couple or something, I kind of feel like that was a possibility in the original series. But, it just doesn't fit here. The three main protagonists, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, should always be sort of on a level playing field. It shouldn't be, Spock's off having a romance, and, McCoy gets, second billing to Uhura because we need to have a prominent female member of the cast getting more attention. And, Kirk is sort of like, oh, I was such a bad boy in the academy. You know what I mean? That kind of flies in the face of the original concept of Trek. So I really hope that they continue to dial down on that stuff and try to make it still as accurate to the classic Trek as you could possibly make it. Unlike the original two films in the modern iteration of the franchise, Star Trek Beyond was directed by Justin Lin. 2009 Star Trek and 2013's Star Trek Into Darkness were directed by J.J. Abrams. Abrams was producer on Star Trek Beyond and will be reprising the role in the yet untitled fourth film. So he'll be back as producer. This fourth Trek film was greenlit in 2016 with reports that Chris Hemsworth would be returning to the franchise to reprise his role as George Kirk. Yeah, it was George, I thought so. Father of Chris Pine's Captain James T. Kirk. Obviously, 3 years is a long time, and actors' schedules shift. It's unclear whether Hawley's film is still based on the 2016 plan, or if Hemsworth will return. Both Hemsworth and Pine were said to have had run into contractual issues in 2018, according to The Hollywood Reporter. The Wrap's report today claims that Chris Pine will be back on board the Enterprise, along with Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Simon Pegg, and Carl Urban. It does not mention Hemsworth. I think it's safe to say Hemsworth, that script was jettisoned. I think it's safe to say Hemsworth is not coming back. I think that's probably how they freed up the bankroll, you know what I mean? They needed the extra cash, and they got it by saying, look, we're going to just do a different script. We're not going to have, they would love to have Hemsworth, I'm sure, but we're not going to pay Hemsworth and Pine and still make a profit. So they're going to have to jettison Hemsworth and just come up with a new script, and that's probably what they're doing here. There are 3 scripts still in contention for the fourth Trek film, according to the Wrap. So it's possible Paramount is still deciding on a direction, as if things weren't murky enough. Deadline reports that Paramount is still working on a second R-rated Star Trek film. Spin-off from Quentin Tarantino, which has been rumored since 2017. So yeah, this is it. We need to have an R-rated Trek film. We need to have an R-rated, superhero films. We need to have R-rated Star Wars films. That'll be the next thing coming up. I swear. What is it about R-rated that makes you people think that it's better? I mean, I don't really know. They say some curse words. You see more blood. I don't really know what's the big deal. It's like you're pushing these franchises away from the kids. And I frankly don't get it. The fourth Star Trek movie will be Hawley's second film. Lucy in the Sky, his debut, is a slightly more grounded story about a NASA astronaut dealing with life on Earth. That movie was poorly received by critics and flopped at the box office, making $320 million on a budget of $27 million, according to Box Office Mojo. No release date for the fourth Star Trek film has yet been announced. So, yeah, that looks to be the case here. I don't know. I think probably what they're going to do is they're going to go with another script. They're probably not going to do the Chris Pine one, the Chris Hemsworth one. I made sure I didn't make that mistake through the whole thing. The last paragraph here, I had to make that mistake. But, yeah, I think they probably figure to do it without Chris Hemsworth, and I don't really know that he was needed. I mean, a time travel story with George Kirk, was that really, the kind of story you wanted? I don't know. they built up the Klingons as to something. It would be nice to see them do something with the Klingons again. Although I think that the new design for the Klingons is butt ugly. I mean, they were supposed to be kind of bizarre looking, but not like, I don't know, animalistic. They're like mongrels or something. It's very bizarre. Of course, they could always go, you know, and do something completely different. I thought that's what I liked about Star Trek Beyond, was it was kind of unique, you know what I mean? They didn't have the Klingons have anything to do with it. They didn't have the Romulans have anything to do with it. You know, they didn't go into the Borg and stuff. They just, like, tried to do something, you know, completely original. Okay, let's see. Oh, we got Splash Page Comics. Hey, nice to see you again, Mr. White Gloves. Mr. White Glove says, I've seen tons of PG movies I love and a ton of R movies I can take or leave it. Yeah, that's basically the way I feel. I mean, in a way, there is a place for certain genres, like particularly horror works good with the R-rated movies. It's just these franchises that are traditionally family-friendly. I don't like seeing them get pushed into a particular, you know, particular genre that it doesn't need to be in. But anyway, yeah, this is kind of an interesting. It's kind of an interesting direction. It seems like they're trying to take Star Trek in. Like I said, I haven't watched a lot of the new stuff. I'm kind of curious about Picard, how that show's going to turn out. I wasn't a diehard Next Gen fan, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. I watched like the first couple of seasons, and then sort of dipped in and out during the run of the original, you know, the original Next Gen season. I mean series. But yeah, I mean, I'm still a fan of Star Trek. I really hope that they can get something going with it because, you know, I think a lot of people are not particularly pleased with Discovery, from what I hear. I haven't seen any of it. And a lot of people are you know, they're kind of signaling the death knell of Star Trek, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, I was there back when classic Trek was like the big thing on like cable TV, and it was on every night, and you watched it and everything, and it's kind of like, it feels like it's, you know, kind of slipping out of the public consciousness, and they're trying to do something with it, but it doesn't feel like it's, you know, it's not, you know, quite up there as it used to be, you know. Alright, before I lose my voice, I gotta wrap up the show here. I hope everybody had a really fun Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me. And like I said, I'm going to try to do a Into the Spider-Verse review. It's a year late. I know nobody's going to be interested in it. Just like nobody was interested in my 6 months late Daredevil 3 season review. But I'm going to try to do that, and that's why I'm trying to save my voice for... It's probably going to be a short video. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. But thank you for joining me. Thank you, Splash Page Comics. There's the drag racer again. Okay, thank you, Splash Page Comics, for joining me. And everybody check out Mr. White Glove's Splash Page Comics on YouTube. It's a great channel. I love to watch it. And he talks about all the great comics he finds, all the classics, especially the Bronze Age ones. I love them. That's my era of comics, I think. And you know, let's see, what is let's see. Sorry so late. I will see you next time. Well, anytime. And we always do our show on Saturday night. It's been getting a little bit later since the fall season. It's a little bit later, so. You know, you could expect maybe around 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time I'll be doing a show. But, as I like to say, it's the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live. So, once again, until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.